Welcome back to a very special episode of Punters Playbook. Alright, it's a state of origin Punters Playbook. Okay? I don't know why I chose to start the video up there. Alright, and we're already facing technical difficulties. Alright, technical difficulties. Guys. Very special episode of Punters Playbook. Okay, it's State of Origin Punters Playbook. All right, back your state. All right, get your Queensland garments out. Get your New South Wales robes out for this week's episode of Punters Playbook. Okay, where we are not going to only just back a horse. We're not just only going to back a multi. All right, we're not just only going to back a few picks. We're going to back our state. Okay, all of that aside. We're back. We've got a few more games this week. Last week we had 5 games. This week we've got 7. So we're settling into a little bit of normality. Alright. The board's a little empty due to... I put last week's UFC on... this week... I put this week's UFC on last week's board. Because I neglected to realise that there wasn't any UFC last weekend. So, we got a UFC-less board. If you want to see the cash cows and the long shots and the locks for the UFC, go watch last week's Punters Playbook. I know it's a bit of a mess around, guys, but I wasn't going to write it on the board a second time. Right, but we're back. We're back with the good stuff. You know, you guys have seen enough Punters Playbook. You know how it works. We're going to go through. We're going to put our tips in. We're even going to put the Origin tips in, all right? And yeah, we're going to get into this. Kicking it off, Friday night game. No Thursday night game this week, guys, because we're privileged enough to get some State of Origin Rugby League football tonight. So, kicking it all off, we got St. George Dragons versus Newcastle Knights. Who do I have winning this one? Guys? I just, I said last week that Newcastle would get Penrith just because of how many people Penrith had out. So... and Newcastle did. They got him. But the Dragons are a different box of frogs. They don't have many outs. I don't think I made this mistake last week where I said teams had outs and they didn't. And then I said that teams didn't have outs and they did. But I'm fairly certain the Dragons don't have that many outs, all right? It's at Jubilee Stadium or whatever, or wherever they're at. So I got the Dragons winning this one, guys. Long story, cut it short. I got the Dragons beating Newcastle on the Friday night. Heading into Saturday, the Titans versus the Storm. Look, guys, I'll just take you back. I'll take you back a few years now, probably around 2023. I actually was live in attendance in a corporate box to view Melbourne Storm versus the Titans at Seabus Stadium, okay? And the Titans beat them. And it was around this time of the year. Or it could have been earlier in the year. I'm not sure, but the point what I'm trying to get at is the Titans can beat the Storm. And the Storm aren't having a great year this year. Right? The Storm aren't having the best year. Okay? They've been winning and losing. Alright? If you look at their wins in their last few games, it's like lose, win, lose, win, lose. Alright? They haven't strung consistent games together since like round, I want to say like 6 or 7. Alright? Whenever they played the Dolphins. Alright? So, and they're going to have, sort of not injured, but, they're going to have their players are going to be a little bit gun shy from Origin. They're going to be a little bit sore. Maybe a couple quads and I don't know, few, little minor injuries, bruise, beaten, some things like that. So, I don't want to back Melbourne Storm here. I want to back the Gold Coast Titans. Because if I take you back, like I did, I seen the Titans beat them once. So it happens. The Titans beat the Storm. It happens. All right, and it's a home game for the Titans. They reshuffled out the back. Des must know what he's doing. He reshuffled out the back. Okay, so I've got the Titans to win this one, guys. I could be really, really silly here, but I'm taking the Titans to win this one. And then we got the Cowboys versus the Tigers as the co-main. I think Todd Payton's going to lead the boys to a win here. I'm going with the Cowboys. The Tigers could win this one. They very well could, but they've just looked really inconsistent in previous weeks. Lockie Galvin, with all that news about him leaving for the Bulldogs, effective immediately. Maybe that's a weight off their shoulder. Maybe they won't play him. But I still think the Cowboys will get it done here, guys. You know, they kind of got towed up by Manly last time. So I think the Cows are going to want it. And the Cows are going to beat Tigers at home. Up next, Manly versus the Broncos. Two really good teams of years previous who are they're not playing well this year. They're playing very inconsistently. Poo. Just poo performances out of both these teams. I hate watching them play lately, okay? But who's the better of the two? Who's the better of the poo? And for that, I say Manly, home ground advantage. Brisbane Broncos, you know, some beaten up, busted players from Origin. It's a hard one, guys. This is a real hard one. This is the pick'em of the night. This is the real Punters Playbook, the real Fighting Field Insights pick'em. Look, I'm going to go with Manly at Brookie. I think they could probably string something together here. DCE coming back. All right. I think Jake will be back. I think Burbo will be back. And I think you know, Brisbane might have a few, you know, busted up, bruised up players. So give me Manly. The Rabbits versus the Warriors. All right, these are my 2025 teams clashing. I mean, you know, South Sydney is my life team. But, you know, I've been with the Warriors a bit lately. So these are my two teams clashing. So, out of respect of both teams, I'm not going to pick a winner. But if you're in my tipping comp, all right, I'm probably picking the Rabbitohs. Okay. So, but yeah, not picking anyone there. Penrith Panthers versus the Eels. This is always a good game, guys. The Eels, no matter if it's a full side Penrith side and if Parramatta are missing everyone, all right, this is always a good game. This was always a great game. I'm going to go Penrith here. I think Penrith, even though they're going to have the beaten up, busted, bruised up players from Origin, I think they're still going to do enough to beat Parramatta. Even though Parramatta looked really good against Manly, Parramatta don't have Footy Dean. All right, they've sacked Footy Dean. They've sent him back to New South Wales Cup, and that's a bad omen. All right, you don't do that. You don't do that to your to, let's face it, you know, a saviour of the club, a saint in Footy Dean, former South Sydney legendary great Footy Dean. All right, you don't do that, and that's a bad omen. I know rugby league omens. You guys, if you're fans of the channel, you'll know that I am a rugby league omen guy. I know rugby league omens, and that's a rugby league omen if ever I've seen one. You know, sending a game winner, a match winner, back down to New South Wales Cup. That's a bad omen, all right? At least keep him on the bench. Roosters versus Raiders, all right? I'm picking the Roosters here. Roosters home game. And what have we been saying all season about the Roosters? They show up for the games, they show up for the big games, for the spotlight games. And they played really well against the Sharks last week. A game where everyone counted them out, not me. All right, the Roosters showed up, and they didn't just jump them in the first half; they jumped them the whole game. So I'm going the Roosters here to beat the Raiders, guys. The Raiders have had this season like big wins, and then they lose. You know, they're not like the Bulldogs where they just keep putting them together, keep just trudging forward. The Raiders will win them, and then they'll lose them. I think the Raiders are just a consistent rugby league side that just, you know, a little bit more on the inconsistent side compared to a team like the Bulldogs. So I'm going with the Roosters here, guys. I think if there's a team that isn't in the top 8 that can beat the Raiders, it's the Roosters. So I'm taking the Roosters here. So the Roosters and the Titans, they're my long shot bets. They're my long shot tips. So yeah. That's it for Tippers Playbook. Jot them down, put them into your tipping comp, you know, submit all of that because I probably just won you the round. Yeah, I'm drinking coffee, all right? Onto the Punters Playbook side of things. Onto the real stuff. Onto the nitty gritty. Onto the multis. Onto the punting. Onto the betting. All right, because that's what everyone's really here for. They're really here to see what multis I've got cooked up. All right. I will just go ahead and say now, for these first 3 games, I've got stats. But I will say for all 7 of the games, particularly the 4 following, after the Tigers game, I don't have many stats, guys. All right, it's Origin. It's Wednesday. It's Origin Wednesday. All right, and getting the stats it's a little bit of hard mahi, and I just wasn't feeling it today. I wasn't feeling it. Sometimes you got to punt off of heart and not statistics. So yeah, without further ado, Dragons versus Knights stats. Fletcher Sharp has been the first try scorer in each of Newcastle's last 2 away matches. Kalen Ponga has scored at least 1 try in each of his last 4 appearances against St George Illawarra. Luciano Leilua has scored at least 1 try in 5 of his last 6 home appearances. Against opponents that were ranked lower on the ladder. Jacob Little has scored a try in 4 of St George Illawarra's last 5 matches at Jubilee Stadium. Each of Newcastle's last 7 away matches have gone under the total match points line. So, some good stats in there. That's probably the game with the most stats. And I jumped on a Sharpie, first try scorer. So, last week's Thursday night opener, Bulldogs Dolphins, I just jumped on a Josh Curran, first try scorer. And this week, I've jumped on a Sharpie, first try scorer. I know lightning doesn't strike twice, but in Fletcher Sharp's case, it did strike twice. So I guess you could change the saying to lightning doesn't strike 3 times, but it's Fletcher Sharp. So Fletcher Sharp, and let's face it, the Dragons aren't the most defensively sound side. Fletcher Sharp, he find a gap, you might get a try. Don't know. So I put him in as first try scorer, a nice, simple, easy one. Titans Storm. Stat me. Melbourne has won 10 of their last 11 matches against Gold Coast, and that 1 out of the 11 there that they didn't win was the one I was at, so you'd have to think. 6 of Melbourne's last 7 away matches have gone over the total match points. Melbourne have won the first half in each of their last 4 matches against Gold Coast. Pappy has scored in 8 of 10 games played this season. Kieran Foran was the first try scorer in his last appearance against Melbourne. And in 7 out of 10 games this season, the opposition's starting left centre has scored 1 try or more. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's Grant Anderson's edge. So, yeah, some stats there. I've gone with a pretty simple one, guys. Not too many try scorers. I've gone Melbourne 13+, overs, Melbourne to win the first half, and Brian Kelly anytime. That's my multi for the game. I think I know Tipper's Playbook I picked Gold Coast, but Punters Playbook I've picked Melbourne in a big way too. Manly versus the Broncos. Oh, sorry, no, I've skipped the Tigers game. Lol. Stats. The West Tigers have lost each of their last 13 matches following a turnaround of 10 plus days. Each of the last 6 matches between North Queensland and the West Tigers have gone over the total match points line. North Queensland have scored 31 or more points in each of their last 3 matches against the West Tigers. Robert Derby has scored in 4 of his last 5 matches. Both Jeremiah Nenai, and Jackson Purdue have scored 1 or more try in 3 of their last 5 games, and 7 out of 11 games this season, one of the opposing side's second rowers has scored at least 1 try. So, big boys pushing their way over the line. I've gone Cows 1 to 12, Purdue anytime, Nanai anytime. Nice, simple one, guys. We've gone back to basics as far as multis go, alright? You're not seeing big 3-man multis. 3 anytime try scorers, alright? I'm not going to dip my toes in the Josh Curran first try scorers very often anymore, all right? Manly Broncos, all right? This is where we get pretty weak on the stats, so forgive me. Broncos have lost each of their last 5 matches against opponents that were ranked lower on the ladder. Each of Manly's last 6 matches have gone under the total match points line. Broncos have failed to cover the line in each of their last 5 away matches. This one I've gone unders. Billy the Kid, that is Billy Walters, coming off the bench at 14, and Cooler anytime. So 2 anytime try scorers, and it to stay at unders. Because I like that Manly understat, and the way Broncos have been playing of recent, they don't often put too many points in. But, 2 sort of inconsistent sides, sort of ill-disciplined sides, you probably might see that blowout. I don't know. All right. Warriors versus Rabbitohs. South Sydney have lost each of their last 10 matches against opponents that were ranked on the top 4. Each of South Sydney's last 11 matches have gone under the total match points line, and the Warriors have scored 11 to 20 points in each of their last 3 away matches. So, I have gone Jai Gray anytime, Rabbits, and unders. 1 try scorer, the Rabbits to win, and it to be unders, alright? Punting. Punting. What do you know about punting? You know much about punting? Penrith versus Para. This is where it gets real weak. Penrith have lost each of their last 5 home matches. Each of Parramatta's last 4 matches have gone under the total match points line. So I've just gone Lomax anytime, Brian Toto anytime, and Penrith 1 to 12. Pretty simple. Winger bet. Can I get a winger bet, please, sir? I don't know why I did that. Chooks vs Raiders. Canberra have won each of their last 5 matches when playing with a rest disadvantage. Each of Sydney's last 4 home matches have gone over the total match points line. Sydney have won the first half in each of its last 4 matches. Simple one. I've gone Sando anytime, and I've gone the Roosters to win. Bing, bang, boom. That's it, guys. That's it for my stats and my multis. Hopefully you took the time to jot them down. All right. A lot of interesting ones in there. And as I said, we're going back to basics. Next week, if shit doesn't get itself sorted, because we haven't won a multi in a while, if shit doesn't get itself sorted, I'm just going to start picking teams to win. Pickers Playbook and Punters Playbook are just going to congeal into one. Onto the board, because that's really why everyone's here. We're here for the board, all right? Cash cows, locks, and long shots, all right? We got try time, we got a Cheeky Lil Pony, we got it all on here, guys. I even got an Origin try scorers, all right? Starting us off with cash cows. Remember, there's no UFC in here, guys. Starting us off with cash cows. We got the Tigers paying $2.85. We got Manly paying $2.15. We got South paying $2.05. We got Para paying $2.30. We got the Chooks paying $2 on the money, and we've got Queensland, the mighty Queensland Maroons, paying $2.25. All right, that is a cash cow if ever I've seen one. All right, so there's a lot of value in there. This is a real, I feel, not poorly. Like, the bookies haven't done a bad job this week, all right? But I think there's a few teams in there that have been a little bit overlooked. Just statistically speaking, we're not looking at the heart, not looking at the dog of these teams. On to our locks, we've got the Dragons. The Dragons are locks for the first time in their NRL careers, all right? They're Punters Playbook. Punters Playbook Front Field Insights career, all right? They're the first time they've entered the lock box. So, yeah, congratulations. The Storm, $1.28. Dragons are $1.52, by the way. The Warriors, $1.77. And New South Wales, $1.65. So, a few locks in there. I'm not sure if the Wilds have even been in the lock box yet. So, yeah, a few locks. Not too many. And even less long shots, guys. We've got 2 long shots. We've got the Titans at $3.70. And we got the Knights at $2.55. So, yeah. $3.70 for the Titans, If you're looking at my tipping comp, I picked the Titans. So, $3.70 for that I really like. And then, a little blurb in here, just last week's Punters Playbook has UFC odds. I just thought I'd clarify on that. Because I know there's a big UFC fan base around here. That's it for Cash Goes Locks long shots. On to try time. Tuipolotu is back from an injury. All right, he's not paying a lot. He's not paying a lot because he scores tries, but that's why I've got him on here. He's $1.75, and I thought it'd be wrong not to put him up there for his return. Dane Gagai played his 300th, 200th game last week, not sure, but he's paying $3.75. Katoa, $3. Brian Kelly paying $4. That's actually dropped at the date of this recording to like $3.70 or $3.80. Because if you think back to that little stat I gave about Melbourne and left centres, okay, that's Brian Kelly. So I really like him to score this week. I really like Brian Kelly to score this week. Purdue is paying $2.80. That might change. That a lot of these might have changed because I do this the night before. So Purdue's up there, $2.80. Api Coruscant paying $5. 2 tries against South Sydney. Wishful thinking maybe that he'd score again, but I don't know. It just seemed like he took the team by the balls and just took control, and 2 tries back to back. So not back to back, but whatever. Xavier Willison, $4.10. We've seen him score tries this year, and Manly, ill discipline. Haven't been in the best of form. I can easily see a Xavier Willison scoring a try here, guys. Brooksy at Brookie, $5.80. Luke Brooks, $5.80. Rocco Berry, $3.15. Jai Gray, $5. All right, Jai Gray. Just from what I've seen last week with Tom Starling, all right, just a little cutout ball, just slips through the middle. I think they're the kind of players that score tries against the Warriors. These slick, quick, run-of-the-ball players. And I think, Havili's probably not going to be able to do that. He's a bit of a stockier sort of meatball build. I think you'll see him running from a mile away. But you get a Jai Gray out there, put him at dummy half, he scores them kind of tries. Zach Lomax paying $2.10 is criminal. That's why he's on the board. Dylan Edwards paying $2.45. I haven't seen Dylan Edwards score a try in a long time, and I'm sort of just putting him up there for wishful thinking. Sando's made his second appearance on the board in 2 weeks, $3.40. And then Zach Hoskins at $4.10. He's been a prop, second row, whatever he plays. All right, he's been scoring tries all year this year. On to my Origin try time players. Huddy's been on this board a fair bit this year, all right? If you know me, I'm fond of putting a bet on Huddy. And him paying $4.80 works out real well. That's an Origin try if ever I've seen one. And then I've got the debutant on the board for a $4.50 anytime try scorer, Robert Toya. That's everything I've got on here for rugby league, guys. It's everything in the rugby league department. Only thing left to talk about is Cheeky Lil Pony. Before we get into this week's Cheeky Lil Pony, though, I want to talk about last week's Cheeky Lil Pony. He was in the thumbnail. We spent like 5-minute segment talking about him. Damo. The horse Damo. All right. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the shiniest horse in the stable, okay? But he had a lot of heart about him. And unfortunately, due to weather, they scratched him. They scratched Damo, and he never got to race. So, Punters Playbook Lil Pony, Cheeky Lil Pony, the segment has been cursed ever since what was the first horse that won? Ever since the first horse that won, Cheeky Lil Pony has been cursed. So, this week we're hoping to break the curse. We're going to Clawfield. Horse, Happy Link, race 2, Clawfield, number 11, 12:25 p.m. and not sure of the colour of the jockey. All right, to be determined. All right, I'm sure of the stats that are on there, you can figure that all out. Let's hope that Happy Link doesn't get scratched. Let's hope Happy Link actually gets to race. Right, so thoughts and prayers to Damo. Hopefully he gets back in there soon. I'm going to be keeping an eye out for him. I didn't check if he was racing this week. I probably should have. But regardless, Happy Link is the Cheeky Little Pony of this week. So that's the board covered, guys. That's our multis covered. That's Pickers Playbook covered. That's pretty much everything, all right? I don't really have anything else. I could chuck you guys a bit of an Origin multi if you want. We could cook one up right here. We could cook up an Origin multi right here. All right? And it goes a little bit something like this. Queensland Queensland to win. The Hammer to score anytime. And unders. Boom. That's my multi for Origin, guys. Queensland, Hammer, unders. So, yeah, that's it. That's the whole video. Board's done. Cheeky Lil Pony's done. Multis. Pickers. Done. Thanks for watching. Check out my Instagram at Fight and Field Insights. Check out my TikTok at Fight and Field Insights, I think. Check them out. Give this video a like. Subscribe to the channel, please, guys. We're still trying to hunt down 50 subscribers, all right? It's impossible to do anything in the YouTube realm without having 50 subscribers. I need 50 subs. All right, so if you guys can take the 3 to 5 seconds out of your day to just press that red button, please. That would really help out, guys, because we're trying to do a State of Origin live stream for Game 3. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and, I'll see you in the next episode of Punters Playbook. Yeah. Up the mighty roads!